Hello, and welcome to my channel. I'm Margaret, and here I share real-life stories from my friends at the nursing home. He smiled as he passed me the cup, but I could smell the bitterness in it before I even tasted. The kitchen clock clicked like a cricket in the wall, keeping a perfect, small-time rhythm. Saturday sun lay thin on the tiles, and the tea steamed up the rim of my favorite mug, the one with the chipped lip from years ago when Daniel still lived and insisted he could fix anything with a dab of glue. The kettle hissed, settling into silence. My son stood over me, too careful, his hands hovering like I was a glass vase and not a woman who had birthed him and survived 74 winters. "Chamomile," he said, easy as a radio host. "You said your sleep's been off." "I did say that," I answered. My voice sounded to my own ears far away and old. He leaned in, that movie star grin he'd learned to wield sometime around 8th grade, when he discovered compliments opened doors faster than keys. It wasn't the tea that shocked me. It was yesterday. At 10 sharp Friday morning, my telephone rang. The landline, because I still prefer the way a call sounds when the world goes through a cord. "Ruth," a voice whispered, conspiratorial, like we were kids in the pews again. "It's Benny from Mutual West." Benny Klein, crooked nose from softball, a laugh like a handsaw, and the only person from my old office who still sends Christmas cards with misspelled grandchildren's names. We hadn't spoken in months. We never whispered. "Benny, is the roof of your office going to fall in if you speak up?" I joked, but already my skin knew something before my brain caught up. "Listen," he said, breath pushing the word. "I'm saying this off the record. You didn't hear it from me. Your son, Mark, there's a policy application with your name on it. It pinged my review queue because of the amount." "How much?" I asked, and my own voice did the whispering then. "Face value, 950,000. He's the owner, sole beneficiary." There's a rush on the approval. The line went quiet. I could hear the faraway rush of copier machines. My house settled. Outside, a dog barked. Then Benny, softer. "Ruth, you never struck me as the consenting type for this. Did you sign anything?" I thought of my signature, the way the R still tries to loop like it did in school. "No," I said. I did not. Somewhere in me, a small door shut with a click. Benny explained things. How sometimes, with simplified underwriting, all they want is a phone check, a nod, an old medical exam they can fish out of a database. The application notes said, "Elders who forget details," and my eyebrows crawled so high it hurt. Benny cleared his throat. I'll I'll slow walk it, but I can't block it alone. Be careful, Ruth." When I hung up, I stared at Daniel's photo on the mantel, his face laughing with the dog we'd had before he got sick. I talked to him like I do sometimes when the weather lingers and the house gets too quiet. "You hear this, Dan?" I asked. "Your son is shopping for grief." I'm not a dramatic woman. I taught 3rd grade for 30 years, and then I took care of Daniel through the last bad year when his lungs turned to paper. I keep lists like other people keep secrets. I iron my tea towels. I pay property taxes on time for a house I no longer live in, the one Mark grew up in across town, the one I rent to a young couple because I couldn't stand the echo of his empty room. I am small, but not invisible. Mothers of my generation were trained to be windshields, clear, protective, always taking the bugs. Lately, Mark had been attentive in a way that made my stomach itch. "You shouldn't be climbing the step stool, Ma," he'd say, lifting the sugar down anyway. He'd stop by without calling, bearing muffins, cartons of soup, promises. "Let me handle the grocery run. You sit. I'll brew the tea." It would have been sweet if sweetness didn't leave an aftertaste. Once upon a time, he was a boy who cried into my blouse when the goldfish died. Then he was a teenager who called me from the principal's office and said, "Please don't tell Dad." After his father's funeral, he laid his head on my lap like he used to when he had earaches, and we breathed together until the casserole brigade thinned. And then, slowly, life collected him. A job in sales with numbers that never stayed the same. A wife named Talia who wore perfume that smelled like peonies and power. A condo full of mirrors. A hunger for more, said like a prayer. Yesterday, after Benny's call, I folded laundry. Cornflower towels, the blue undershirts I sleep in, socks paired like old couples. I could have screamed. Instead, I wiped the counter of crumbs that weren't there. I relabeled the spice jars. I put an empty amber vial, the one I used to decant vanilla, on the back of the silverware drawer. Old teachers don't panic. We plan. Now today, my son stands in my kitchen. He sets the tea down, clink, beside the placemat with daisies. "How's Talia?" I ask, because it's a normal question and my voice wants normal as a disguise. "She's good," he says. "Works intense. Q3, you know." He smiles again, too hard. He looks at my face the way someone checks a cake. "Done yet?" He pulls out a chair. "You told me you've been waking up at night. Thought I'd bring your favorite. I even warmed the milk." He touches the handle of the cup, then removes his hand like it burned. "Drink while it's hot, Ma." The steam lifts the smell. Floral, yes, but under it a tongue-curling bitterness that doesn't belong to chamomile or warmed milk or honey. I've tasted that ghost before, when Daniel came home with the first bottle of sleeping pills. When the pharmacist, Lena, back when she ran the counter herself, warned me to start with half, to respect the way the edges of the world can blur. "Thank you," I say. I touch the rim to my lips, let it wet them, tilt the cup just enough to make the swallowing sound with my throat. When he glances at the window because a bird has scolded us both, I let the tiniest sip fall back into the cup. "You should take it to the living room," he says. "Put your feet up. I'll tidy up here." My kitchen is already tidy. The garbage pail liner is folded like origami inside. His fussing feels like a performance given to the wrong audience. I stand, take the cup, and shuffle just enough to be believable. In the hallway, there's the little table where I keep the mail and a dish for keys. I set the cup down, press my palm to my heart until I feel the drum settle. Then I open the silverware drawer quietly, and my fingers find the amber vial I placed there yesterday, the one with the tiny funnel attached with baker's twine. "Everything okay, Ma?" he calls, cheerful, too cheerful. "Just getting a coaster," I say. "You know how the wood rings." He laughs. "You and your coasters." I step into the half bath off the hall. The door hangs open because I've always hated closed doors in small rooms. I slip the vial under the hem of my cardigan, twist off the cap with a dry click, and pour. The tea slides amber into amber. No clink, just a whisper. I leave a swallow in the cup for show, enough to stain my tongue if he asks me to stick it out like I'm 6. Back in the kitchen, he's wiping a clean counter, his hand making slow circles. "How is it?" he asks without looking up. "Calming," I say, and I don't know if I'm talking about the tea or the act of naming danger aloud in my head. The bitterness lingers on my lips from where the steam kissed them. My stomach does a small somersault and rights itself. He watches me take another pretend sip. I meet his eyes and hold them the way I used to when he lied about homework, long enough to make the lie itch. He looks away first, laughs like we're in on a joke. "You'll sleep like a baby." I was never fond of that phrase, I say. Babies don't sleep. He doesn't laugh. He stays 10 more minutes, then 15, talking about weather, about traffic, about a neighbour's dog that barks. He asks about my will in a way he thinks is casual. "Have you updated everything since Dad?" he says, drying a plate that is already dry. "I update things," I say. "It's what I do." When he leaves, he bends to kiss my hairline, and I smell his aftershave and something under it. Metal, maybe. "Rest up, Ma," he murmurs. "Text me if you need anything." The door clicks shut behind him. I stand very still and listen to the house recover from his presence. My hands shake only when I lock the deadbolt, muscle memory finding the key the way it always has. At dusk, I walk 2 blocks to Lena's pharmacy. It's technically Lena and Daughters now, but she still works Thursdays and Saturdays, sleeves pushed up, glasses on a beaded chain. "Ruth," she says when I step inside, bell jingling. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I might have," I say. I place the vial, carefully, like a baby bird, on the counter between us. "I need a favor. Off the record." Lena's eyebrows knit. She knows me well enough not to fuss with questions in the wrong order. She looks at the liquid, at my hands, then at my face, where I feel every year I've lived sit down at once. "Come to the back," she says. "We'll see what we can see." As she locks the front door and flips the sign to "Be right back," I feel something loosen in me. Not fear. That's a clenched thing. This is different. It's a wire pulled free, a light flicked on in a room I didn't know how to switch. I am small. I am 74. I keep lists and spare vials and a clear head, and I am not afraid to know. Lena leads me past the shelves of cough drops and thermometer covers into the small consultation room where she checks blood pressures and whispers to women about side effects they don't want to discuss in front of husbands. The room smells like alcohol pads and lavender lotion, the particular blend of sterility and comfort she's perfected. She closes the door with a soft click and looks at me over the rims of her glasses. "Tell me what I'm not allowed to write down," she says. "My son brought me tea," I begin, and the words wobble. I grip the edge of the counter until my knuckles calm. I think it was meant to be my last. Lena does not gasp. She has that gift, the one that keeps a person still when others might sprint for a phone or a prayer. "All right," she says. "We'll treat this like a pharmacist treats a mystery. Start with the list of possibilities, test what we can, keep our heads." I nod. This is why I came here. The steady in her voice like a handrail. She pulls a drawer, takes out a slender test panel I recognize from the time Daniel mixed his sleeping pills with cough syrup and scared us both witless. "This won't be definitive, Ruth," she says. "But if there's anything obvious, benzodiazepines, Z-drugs, certain sedatives, it'll give us a wink. We work like 2 women icing a cake. Quiet. Practiced." She pours a thread of my tea into a glass tube, dips a strip, sets a timer. The strip soaks up the amber and turns the faintest lilac in 2 spots. Lena leans in, glances from the color chart to the strip. "Temazepam," she says, almost to herself. "And clonidine. No, not that. Wait." She adjusts the light. "Zolpidem, possibly. The dose looks—" "Ruth, this is not a grandmotherly help-you-sleep measure. This is a drop-a-moose dose, if these panels are anywhere close. And the combination, whoever did this does not know, or does not care, about respiratory depression. Daniel's lungs, paper at the end. For a moment, the room is January again, and the air hurts to breathe. I rub the ridge of my wedding band against my finger, a habit of years. "My son," I say. because naming is the only way I know to keep from drowning in the implication. Lena's eyes soften, but do not pity. We need to get this to someone who can run a full assay, she says. I can call a contact at the university lab, but that brings in questions. Are you ready for questions? I think of Benny's whisper on the phone, the words, rush approval. I think of Mark's bright grin, the way he watched me sip. Yes, I say, and then surprise myself. No police yet? Not until I can hold the truth in my hand without it slipping. She nods. I can log this as a possible tampering and request analysis. I won't use names. I'll courier it myself so it doesn't sit with the interns. She pauses. Ruth, do you feel safe tonight? Safe. What a word. Once, safe meant knowing the door closed behind my son's curfew-height silhouette. Later, safe meant the beep of Daniel's oxygen machine. Now, safe is a thing I'm building from old friendship and a glass vial. I'll be fine, I say. Deadbolts work, and I do too. She reaches into a drawer, pulls out a new pill sorter, the kind with bright letters for days of the week, and presses it into my palm. Humour me, she says. Use this. If anyone asks, you're getting forgetful and I'm doting. I laugh, a short bark. I'll have to practice forgetting. Don't, she says. That's the one thing you can't afford. On the walk home, the air has a bite that doesn't belong to summer. It's fear's cousin, alertness. The sky over the grocery store is pinking, and the cart boys are rounding up the last strays. My feet know the cracks in the sidewalk by heart. At my door, I rest my hand on the frame where Mark's height marks used to be before I painted over them. 4 feet, 2 inches, 4 feet, 7 inches. The year he shot up like a beanstalk and ate peanut butter from the jar with a spoon. There's a memory like a fishhook, him grinning, sticky, saying, "Don't tell Dad." At home, I set out my notebook. Old habit, title, date. I draw columns for what I know, what I think, what I can prove. The lists steady me, build a bridge across the thinnest ice. What I know, Benny's call, policy amount, Mark's unusual attention, the T's bitterness, the preliminary test, likely zolpidem, heavy dose, and possibly something else. What I think. The policy is part of a plan. Talia knows. My gut insists, with that quiet female certainty honed over years of hearing truth before others do. They believe my death will read like age and grief performing their old duet. They think I am an easily closed window. What I can prove? Not enough yet to take to anyone who can put cuffs on wrists. But I will. I pour myself fresh tea, real chamomile, my own bag, and watch the steam climb. The house hums, the fridge motor, the tick of the clock, the faint rush of neighborhood pipes. I let the silence hold me while my mind walks backward through years, looking for seeds that could grow into today. Times Mark borrowed money and returned it late, if at all. The car that fell apart after 6 months. The investment, he said, would double. The way Talia's smile never reached her eyes when she hugged me with air between us. And still, I find the other memories too, because I am not a woman who erases things that don't fit her argument. Mark at 9, saving a worm from the sidewalk after rain. Mark at 16, making me a Mother's Day omelette that tasted like eggs and shells. Mark at 27, holding my hand at Daniel's graveside, whispering, "I'll take care of you, Ma." I believed him. Maybe he did too, until the world taught him a different language. The phone rings at 9. Lena. I drove the sample to the lab, she says without greeting. I asked for a rush and I meant it. My friend Syra owes me favors. She'll email me an early read tonight. Lock your doors. Sleep with a chair under the knob if it makes you feel better. I'll sleep with a plan under my pillow, I say. After we hang up, I call my lawyer, Nora, widow of a cop, daughter of a nurse, a woman with a handshake like a gavel. I leave a voicemail. It's Ruth. I need to review my estate documents first thing Monday, and I may need to discuss something delicate and criminal adjacent. My voice sounds calm, almost bored. Good. At 10:30, my email pings. A message from Lena with a forwarded note from the lab, jargon folded around two clear sentences. Presence of zolpidem at high concentration. Presence of diphenhydramine at supratherapeutic levels. Over-the-counter and prescription, a cocktail meant to quiet muscle and mind. Lethal, if one is small, older, trusting. I print the email and file it in a manila folder labeled Household, Kitchen, an old trick from teaching days when certain things needed to be both kept and hidden. The next morning, I wake with my plan pressed against the inside of my skull, like a letter I've memorized. I call Benny again. Can you send me the policy application? I ask. Redact what you have to. I need to see what lies look like on paper. He hesitates, then sighs. I can show you. I can't send. Come to the office. I'll meet you in the lobby like we're going to lunch. A pause. Ruth, I'm sorry. Don't be, I say. Save sorry for people who run out of options. At Mutual West, the lobby smells like carpet cleaner and ambition. Benny, in his short-sleeved shirt, looks like every summer camp counselor and the boy who once stole the school bell and hid it in a locker. He hands me a folder with sticky notes, like flags. We sit in two chairs facing a ficus. Here, he says, tapping a form. Owner, Mark Solomon. Proposed insured, Ruth Solomon. Phone interview completed? There's a note. Subject answered minimal questions due to age, verified by son. He coughs. He told them you were hard of hearing. I stare at the line. My hearing is fine. What's dulled in me is patience for being handled. Another tab. Beneficiary, 100% to owner. Another. Medical records. Last TDAP vaccine, bone density scan, grief counseling notes. I make a mental note to light a fire under someone about health privacy later, but first things first. Thank you, I say. Slow walk it longer. He nods, mouth a straight line. When I leave, the day throws heat at my back. I buy a lemon at the corner market because I need to hold something bright. On the walk home, I rehearse in my head what I will say to Nora, what I will say to the detective I haven't yet called, what I will not say to my son. He texts at noon. How'd you sleep? The small smiley mocks me with its polite cheeks. I type, like a log. I add a heart. He replies, good. I'll swing by tomorrow with that soup you like. Perfect, I think. The world keeps its appointments. I sharpen mine. That night, I lay out a pale cardigan with deep pockets and the necklace with the chunky pendant, both useful for hiding small things with wires. I iron a cloth napkin, as if I'll need it to catch crumbs, when what I am really after is words. In the mirror, I study my face. The woman looking back has white in her hair, and a mouth that learned to press itself into a straight line to keep from breaking into wilder shapes. She is not afraid of her son. She is afraid of the part of him that believes she is a line item. She is also, inconveniently, the mother who still wants to touch his cheek and say, "Who taught you to hunger this way?" I make tea. Real tea. I sit at the kitchen table with my lists and my folder and the lemon in a bowl like a son. All right, I say into the quiet room. Tomorrow we begin. The next day comes dressed in ordinary clothes. Blue sky, lazy breeze, the neighbour's lawnmower droning like a summer bee. I wake before 7, nerves acting as my alarm clock, and lay still for a long moment, listening to the quiet. No footsteps, no creak of the stairs, no kettle whistling. The calm before the performance. I move through the morning like it's a well-worn lesson plan. Breakfast, toast, 2 strawberries, coffee in my chipped mug. Laundry, 1 load of sheets, folded with precision. At 9, I pull the cardigan over my blouse and fasten the pendant necklace. Its weight is a comfort, though what's hidden inside, the small recording device Nora had couriered to me yesterday, is the real anchor. At 10:30, I hear his car pull up, the tires crunching over the driveway. He's early, which is unlike him unless he's trying to catch me unguarded. Through the lace curtain, I see him step out with a brown paper bag in one hand, phone in the other. His head tilts down as he texts, probably Talia, before he tucks the phone into his pocket and puts on the bright, filial smile. "Morning, Ma." His voice booms into the kitchen before the door's even shut. "Brought the chicken soup from that deli you like. Extra noodles this time." I return his smile, feeling the recorder warm against my skin. "That's thoughtful, Mark. You're spoiling me lately." That's the idea. He sets the bag down on the counter, the smell of herbs and broth curling into the air. "You feeling any better after that tea the other night?" I meet his eyes. "I slept," I say simply. He nods, almost pleased with himself. "Good. You should let me take care of things more. Less stress for you." The way he says it, I can almost hear the unspoken, "less time you have to make it to the end of the month." We sit at the table. He ladles soup into bowls with exaggerated care, like a TV commercial husband. "Eat while it's hot," he says. I take a small spoonful, blow on it, let the steam fog my glasses. As we eat, he starts talking about the condo market. Prices rising, good time to sell if you're sitting on property. "You could get a tidy sum for that old place you're renting out," he says. I sip my water. Why the sudden interest in my finances? Not interest, just concern, he says, smiling like it's all innocent. "I want you comfortable. I mean, think about it. Less hassle for you and more cash flow. Win-win." "And what would I do with the cash flow?" I ask. He shrugs. "Invest. Or, pass it along so it's doing some good sooner rather than later." The recorder hums quietly against my chest, catching every word. I decide to bait the hook. "Sooner rather than later? That sounds like you think my clock's running out." He chuckles, shaking his head. "Come on, Ma. Don't be morbid. I just mean, you've worked hard all your life. Why not relax? Enjoy your rest. Enjoy your rest." The phrase is so carefully placed, it feels rehearsed. I set my spoon down, folding my hands in front of me. "And if I don't?" His grin falters for just a moment, long enough for me to see the calculation underneath. "Then I guess I'll just have to keep bringing you tea and soup until you do." He laughs, but it's too loud, too fast. We talk about nothing for another 15 minutes. Weather, politics, a funny story about his co-worker's dog. He glances at his watch twice, the way a man does when he's got somewhere else to be. Finally, he stands. "I'll check in later this week. Make sure you're okay." When the door closes behind him, I stay still for a moment, the way you do after a heavy book slams shut. My hands are steady. My breathing is not. I take the recording device from my necklace and set it on the table. Its tiny red light blinks like a heartbeat. Evidence. proof. By 2 o'clock, I'm in Nora's office, the recorder on her desk beside the lab report from Lena's friend. She listens without interrupting, her brow tightening just slightly when his voice says, "Enjoy your rest." "This," she says when it ends, "is more than enough for the police to take seriously." She leans back, steepling her fingers. "Do you want to go to them today?" I nod. "Yes, but I want to be the one holding the net when it falls." Her lips curve, not quite a smile, but close. "Then we set it up so you are." That night, I sleep like someone who's already left the cage open. By Monday morning, the plan is stitched together tight enough to hold water, but loose enough that my son won't see the seams. Detective Harris meets me in Nora's office. He's a tall man with tired eyes and a notebook full of small, precise handwriting. He listens as I tell the whole story again. Benny's call, the tea, Lena's test, the recording. He doesn't interrupt until the end. "You understand," he says. "This isn't a TV show. We can't trap him into confessing with clever questions. But if you're willing to let us wire you up and you keep him talking naturally, we can build a very strong case." I nod. I've been talking to that boy for 48 years. I know how to keep him talking. That afternoon, the tech comes, short, brisk, with the patience of a tailor. She tucks the wire under my cardigan, feeds the mic up near my pendant, checks for interference. I feel oddly calm, like this is just another piece of clothing I've decided to wear. The detective's plan is simple. Invite Mark over, play at being tired, let him lead the conversation to the rest he's been hinting at. The more specific, the better. They'll be in a van nearby, listening. By 4 o'clock, I've texted Mark. "Haven't been sleeping again. If you have time, maybe bring some of that tea you made?" He replies within a minute. "Be there in an hour." When he arrives, he's carrying the same mug he gave me last time. I can smell the faint sweetness of chamomile, and that same bitter shadow beneath it. "You really should just let me take care of you full time," he says as he sets the cup down. "Maybe you could move in with us. Talia wouldn't mind." "Wouldn't mind?" I raise an eyebrow. He laughs. "Well, she might at first, but she'll come around. And then you can really relax. No bills, no cooking. Just peace." I lift the cup, turning it in my hands like I'm thinking. "Peace," I repeat. "That's what you want from me?" "Of course, Ma. I mean, think about it. If you weren't here alone, worrying about things, you'd be happier, healthier." I meet his gaze over the rim of the cup. "And if I wasn't here at all?" There's the flicker, the one I've been waiting for. He shrugs, casual. "Then I'd make sure everything was handled, that you didn't have to struggle. You've earned your rest." My fingers tighten on the mug. "Earned it, have I? Enough for that big insurance payout?" He freezes for a heartbeat, then forces a laugh. "What, Benny been gossiping?" "Ma, come on. It's just a safety net, for if something happens. People do it all the time." "People don't usually forget to ask permission first." His jaw works. "I'm just trying to make sure we're both taken care of. You don't have to make it sound sinister." I lean back, watching him squirm, my voice softer now. "Mark, what's in this tea?" He smirks. "Something to help you sleep." The silence after that hangs heavy, enough for Harris in the van to have every word he needs. He leaves 15 minutes later, impatient now, muttering about overreacting. The moment his car is out of sight, the detectives step into my living room. Harris's voice is clipped but almost satisfied. "We have what we need. We'll pick him up before dinner." I sit in my chair, hands folded, watching the blue light of the TV flicker across the room, though it's not turned on. My heart is steady. I am steady. 2 hours later, Harris calls. He's in custody. We found the prescription bottles and a draft of the policy paperwork in his desk. The insurance company's been notified. They're voiding the policy. And Ruth, he won't be coming near you again. For the first time in days, I let my shoulders drop. The house feels larger, lighter, like it's taken a deep breath. Tomorrow, I think, I'll start on the rest of my plan. By the next morning, the house no longer feels like it's holding its breath. The kettle whistles the way it always has, and the tea I drink is mine alone. No bitterness, no shadow. Mark calls from jail before lunch, but I don't answer. The sound of his voice on the machine, half pleading, half resentful, slips through the house like a draft. I delete the message without replaying it. Nora meets me at her office that afternoon with a stack of papers. The insurance company's confirmed the policy is void. The police case is solid. Now, about your other property. The other property is the old house across town, the one I kept after Daniel died, partly because I couldn't bear to let it go, partly because it was still a tether to the boy Mark once was. But now that tether feels more like a leash, I want it sold, I tell her. Fast. You sure? Yes. I want to choose where the money goes before I'm not the one choosing. 3 weeks later, the sale is final. I drive the check straight to the bank, then to the local shelter for abused seniors. A low brick building with wide ramps and a garden full of sunflowers. The director's eyes widen when I hand her the envelope. This will keep the lights on for a year, she says. That's the idea, I tell her. Make it harder for someone else's son to think this way. Mark writes to me from prison twice that month. I recognize the handwriting before I even open the envelopes, and then I decide not to open them at all. I send them back, unopened, marked return to sender. The act is quiet, almost gentle but final. One evening, I walk past the mantel where Daniel's photo still sits. I light the small lamp beside it and speak into the warm glow. It's done, I tell him. He can't hurt me anymore, and I'm not afraid of being alone. In the weeks that follow, I plant herbs in the window box. Basil, rosemary, chamomile. I start attending a writing group at the library, telling stories to people who listen without wanting anything in return. The air in my house feels clear again. Some nights, I sit with a cup of tea, watching the steam curl like it's spelling out something only I can read. I think about the line between mercy and foolishness, about the ways love can be twisted into leverage. I think about the day I smelled bitterness in a cup and decided not to swallow. And I think, with a calm I've earned, that my life is mine again. Every hour of it, every choice, every breath. Because sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's simply walking away with your head high, your house quiet, and your tea safe to drink.